So hi Freddie.
Hey.
We are here on the Nugen audio booth, and
That's
you make a lot of kind of like useful plugins, right?
I'd like to think they're useful, yes. I certainly think so. Yeah, so we've got a few things that we're demoing this week at NAMM. The main things are Halo Vision, Sigmod, and Paragon. So Halo Vision on the right here is brand new. This actually hasn't been released yet. I don't think we've set a release date. It was supposed to be mid-April, but it's kind of we're still kind of putting the finishing touches on it, but it is sort of imminent, is what I'll say. This is a surround and immersive analysis suite, so it allows you to see what's going on with your audio in situations where you might not necessarily be able to hear what's going on. Maybe that's because you're in a less than ideal listening environment, or maybe it's because you've been in the studio all day and your ears are getting fatigued, so you just want to make sure that you're hearing what you think you're hearing. So what you've got here is, this is the correlation matrix. This shows the phase relationships between pairs of channels. So in the bottom left, we've got the left and the LFE, and you've got the left and the right side rear, and so on. So all the way red means that those two channels are completely out of phase. All the way green means that they're perfectly in phase, and yellow means they have a neutral phase relationship. Next to that is the frequency haze. This is like a top-down view of the space in the surround field, but it shows you which frequencies are in which channel. So you can see the channel labels around the outside. Closest to the center is the low frequencies, and then further out is the high frequencies. Similar to that is the location haze here, which does a similar job, but this is literally showing you the location of where the kind of audio energy is focused. So again, you've got all your channels around the outside. I don't know if I already mentioned this, but this runs in up to 712, so you can use it for Dolby Atmos, or at least the Dolby Atmos bed tracks. If you're going higher than that, you'd need to kind of down mix to 712 in order to make it work. Everything can be rearranged and configured to whatever you require. You can have kind of multiple of the same view, or you don't even have to have every view. This is a beta version that I'm demoing at the moment, but the finished product is going to look like this if we look at the iPad. So you'll have this correlation web, which again shows the phase relationships, and these true peak meters at the bottom here. So, like I say, works in up to 712, and it's just for anyone who's working in immersive formats or surround formats. It's just giving you that bit of extra security for situations where you can't hear as well as you'd like. The other new thing is Sigmod. So for those not familiar, Sigmod, it doesn't look that exciting, but Sigmod is a kind of modular utility belt. It has 13 different single process modules which all do one simple task, which depending on what DAW you're using might not be easily accessible. So for example, in Pro Tools, it doesn't have a phase flip on the channel strip. You can just flip the phase within Sigmod. It also has a mid-side encoder and decoder, so if you have two instances of Sigmod, either side of any other stereo plugin, you can essentially force any stereo plugin to work in mid-side mode. So if you have like a compressor that you really like, or an EQ that you really like, that doesn't have a mid-side mode natively, but you want to do some mid-side compression or mid-side EQ, you can stick this either side and essentially force it to bend to your will. As well, you can do some really interesting stuff with that. I've experimented a bit with like mid-side reverbs. You can get some really cool sounds with that. The main changes with this new update are it's had a bit of a facelift. The graphics were kind of looking a bit outdated before. And the other thing is that we've added in this split module. What this allows you to do is to treat the left and right channels completely independently. Previously, whatever module you were using on the, wherever you put it in the chain, it would be on both channels, whereas now we've added this split module. Gives you a lot more flexibility with the signal architecture, and that's kind of the entire point of Sigmod, is that it allows you to customize your signal architecture.
So with that kind of split, are you then able to use separate plugins, like third-party plugins on the splits?
You can. So there's unfortunately, I don't have any non-Nugen plugins installed on this machine, so I can't demo this very effectively. Yeah. But basically, you have the insert module here that allows you to host third-party plugins within Sigmod. So that means you can use them within whatever custom signal architecture you're doing. The really cool thing about that as well is that it allows you to host VST and AU plugins. So Pro Tools, for example, doesn't support VST or AU, but within Sigmod, you can host those in there. So even if you're not using any of the other features of Sigmod, you can use it as a VST host, which is really nifty.
Yeah, I mean, that's really useful for a Pro Tools user who has a lot of AU or
totally.
Or VSTs, yeah.
You know, there's so many particularly like older plugins that maybe they work in RTAS and they work in VST. If you're on a more recent version of Pro Tools, you can't use RTAS anymore, and you can't use VST unless, of course, you give us your money. So, and the last thing I want to talk about is Paragon. This has been out for a little while, so people watching might already be familiar with this. Paragon is a convolution reverb. It runs in up to 712. A lot of our plugins now run in up to 712. It's a convolution reverb, but it uses a brand new method of convolution, which was developed by a guy called Dr. Jez Wells. Essentially, what this method does is it allows you to adjust things like the decay time and the room size of the impulse response without using time stretching. So other convolution reverbs will use time stretching to achieve that, which can sound really good. There's plenty of great convolution reverbs out there, but it can sometimes result in unwanted artifacts, and this kind of bypasses that because it deconstructs the audio of the impulse response and essentially resynthesizes that. It has some other cool features like the mic distance control here. This essentially adjusts the balance of the early and late reflections to give the impression that the audio source is either closer to you or further away without actually changing the sound of the space. My favorite feature within Paragon as well is the frequency-specific decay time. If you go to the IR panel here and you hit decay, you can adjust the decay time by frequency. So rather than doing that globally for the entire frequency spectrum, say I've got a vocal with a really long reverb, but I want to get a bit more clarity, what I can do is zone in on the fundamental frequencies of that person's voice and lower the decay time just for that. Then you've still got the really long decay for all your overtones, harmonics, whatever else, but the actual fundamental frequencies are going to just have a bit more transient detail because you've lowered the decay time specifically for that.
So for like bass sounds and stuff that you didn't want, like low-end things that you don't want the reverb on, yeah,
exactly.
Really
so
useful,
and in that case, you could use it in conjunction with the high-pass filter at the top here as well. But yeah, it's a really flexible reverb. If you're using it in surround as well, you can set individual pre-delay for every channel, you can set individual decay time for every channel, you can set the crosstalk in and out for every channel. There's a lot you can do, really flexible. And that, I think, is about everything that we've got that's new or relatively new.
Brilliant. So just going back to the usual questions that we always have to ask on these videos, do you have a kind of final price? Obviously this one is already out and this is an update. So what are the prices of these, and do you have a final price for
So we don't have a price confirmed for Halo Vision just yet. I think it'll be somewhere in the region of like, my apologies, I'm going to be saying this in dollars, which makes me hate myself because I don't use dollars, but that's just the ones I have in my brain. I think Halo Vision will be about $300 there or thereabouts. Sigmod is usually $49, but we're currently selling it for $29 as an introduction to the new version. Paragon, I think, is $299 if you buy just the stereo version, or $599 if you want to use it in immersive audio, so that's up to 10 channels. And yeah, to be honest, I could look up the sterling, but
it's okay.
Americans are everywhere.
Yeah, it's late in the day. We're in America. It's fine.
There we go. Cool. Well, yeah.
Brilliant, Freddie. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.